welcome. This is our special edition, and in this edition we are going to focus on peace of Africa and the value of peace, how Africans can work on their own peace without interference of other bodies. And my guest today is Seme Isaiah from South Sudan, and he is a PhD candidate in University of South Africa. Mr. Isaiah completed his MA from one of Ethiopia University, Ethiopian Public Service University, very recently in 2024. And welcome, Mr. Isaiah.
Thank you, Mr. Luma, for having me in European Broadcasting Network in this particular special edition. Yes, I would like just to say once again, my name is Seme Isaiah, a PhD student from the University of South Africa. Once again, I was so honored when I was a student in Ethiopian Civil Service University doing my Masters of Science in Environment and Climate Change Management. So it was a really pleasure to be in this one of the beautiful city of Africa.
In which field of study are you specializing in South Africa now?
I am doing environmental management.
Wow.
And when we talk about environment, we are talking about everything. Our peace is anchored on environment. If the environment is disturbed, we don't have peace as what? Humans. So therefore, for me, I look at that when we talk about peace, let's first define about the values that we are supposed to use to protect our environment. And once we have that is in place, we will have a peaceful coexistence. Why I'm saying this? Because that one, environment contains almost everything. The natural resources are found within the environment. The working environment is always part of it. And when we to look about even healthy living is also attributed to the environment. And many often people end up finding it more difficult when they found the living conditions are not good, simply because they are not having very conducive environment. Maybe there's a lot of climate issues. These days when we talk about peace, you don't only focus on armed conflict. You also need to look about the climatic issues that are creating displacement, and climate refugees are almost everywhere. So you have to fight with the numerous kind of aspects for you to maintain a very compatible and peaceful place where your citizens can be very happy and be able to, live where they want.
How do you assess the current state of peace in Africa?
To be very honest, Africa currently is faced with persistent armed conflicts and violent extremism. And also there's an element of democracy backsliding. This is the state of Africa that we have apparently. When you look at the landscape of the peace around the African countries, you find that almost most of the regions are facing some at least instabilities. And this is what I perceive as a person, as a student. I feel it is created by a lack of trust, either from those who are in systems of decision making, and then those who their decisions are taken by those particular systems. When there's no trust in the two, it finds a little bit of difficult for them to coexist peacefully. That means the other aspect is that even person, if you don't have peace by yourself, you will not be able to live peacefully. And most oftenly, conflicts are not started at the regional level or maybe at a scale that is already at bigger. Conflict actually starts from the individuals. And when they are beginning thinking that maybe someone else is not happy about my living, he will begin thinking, what do I do with this particular person? And because the conflict started within you and you're not able to resolve it by yourself, that again go to the next level. And by so doing, if it is not resolved, you end up, spreading it and go to other actors who are actually waiting to join and act. Because of the conditions that currently Africa is facing, it is easy to influence those who are disgruntled, those who feel they are even not worth living. Now, if there's this particular kind of situation, why can't I go there? It is not even, they feel it is even worth dying for something that they're involved than even dying when you're starving from hunger and other diseases. So I think in terms of democracy, when I talk about backsliding of democratic values, I've seen a number of elections that have been conducted in Africa, and I saw does not represent the previous values that Africa has demonstrated in some of their elections. There's a little bit of irregularities, but of course that is understandable. But the most important thing is that we as Africans need to start creating trust. In whatever we speak, whatever we do, we should also be able to know that this should translate into how should the people perceive about you, perceive about me, perceive about everybody. It is all collectively for us. So when we talk about peace, we're not talking about only leaders, we are talking about people who are living in this particular continent.
Sure.
It is a collective responsibility for everyone to ensure that there's a peaceful coexistence. So if I don't have peace with you, and then that is already, we have a conflict among ourselves or between ourselves, which may also resonate. Your people will begin hating me, my people will hate you, and
Sure.
that's how it expands. And even our friends and your friends will always join, and so that is what I feel that when we want to really find a real peace, we as a people need to also take ownership. So start with your environment where you are living and then create a conducive environment so that people around you should also be able to see the peace that you are trying to talk about it. It is even seen in you. But sometimes we talk peace when we even don't have peaceful living. So that becomes like hypocrisy.
Sure.
You are preaching things that you don't do.
You
So
mean we have to promote the genuine peace?
Yes, we need to be very honest, and when I talk about trust, whatever we speak, we should mean it. But sometimes we speak peace, but we promote war, and that is totally different. So in actual sense, genuine peace is what is lacking. Though we have a relative peace, which is okay, but then we need to translate that into a long-lasting. So long-lasting, everlasting peace will always come with the genuineness. When we engage in a very genuine and constructive talk, we will be able to resolve our issues amicably, and we should be able to say, okay, now that we agree that we are going to have a peaceful coexistence, no one should trigger. And because if we are genuinely agreeing into this, trust me, we'll honor that particular agreement. Whether it is a gentleman agreement, whether it is a written agreement, whether it's a comprehensive kind of peace agreement, will be honored. But always there's this tendency of saying, peace is just, an agreement is on paper, just a sign, a piece of paper that can easily be torn and thrown away. If we have this particular tendency, trust me, there will be no genuine peace in our continent. Unless we begin thinking, when we agree on one point, let that one point be really, really implemented to the letter and by the Spirit itself.
How we, generate solutions for African problems, indigenous solutions, because we do have traditions, knowledge, and we have many things. Sometimes seeking solution from elsewhere is, here and there we can witness. What do you say on this?
Thank you for this. And as I said from the beginning when I was introducing this particular kind of topic, I say peace starts with what? With the individual. And whether it be at the at the international level or at the regional level or at maybe continental level, we always have solutions. Africa have got already a structure that are in place a long time ago. Actually, before we enter into the civilization that currently bring us to the spotlight. There were structures that were already in place, how to resolve issues, And I think some of those solutions, when we look back, they were more genuine than what we have today. The most important thing is we talk to one another. Africa must establish a genuine kind of dialogue. We have elders who are there in Africa that have been there for a long time, and they possess the knowledge that they accumulated over the years. We could still use the elders who are there to help us. How was conflicts resolved back then? And they will be able to advise us. Secondly, our solutions are actually more genuine because we know our cause of the problems. Normally, when you know the cause of your problem, the root cause, it is easy to address it. Simply because if it is a disagreement about resources, we need to know who is the owner of those resources and how are those resources being utilized. Are they utilized for the common good of everybody? Or it is utilized because somebody has interest and put his interest above all the what? The interests of others. And then if it is about transboundary issues, there are also mechanisms of handling transboundary issues. We as Africans, we already know those resources have been there in existence for many, many years. And how they've been conserved, we already know it. So it is a matter of understanding. If my problem is that I'm extracting more than what could go to you, I could still be able to say, okay, let's come and resolve. These are the projects that I'm having, and these are the projects that you want to do. So what we'll do is that instead of holding 90% to this particular one, I will reduce my consumption maybe to 40 or 50%, so that you can have at least some extra that you could be able to use it. When we agree and we understand our problems, it is more easy that we can still find our own solutions. The danger of involving players from outside is that they bring some practice that are not within the continent, and those practices are not contextually, does not apply within our context, and that may not easily make us to have a lasting peace. Those copy and paste kind of solutions sometimes doesn't last. They're just there for a short time, and later on, instead, they end up producing more problems that could not be able to be solved. So, in a nutshell, we have the solutions by ourselves, but we just need to have a trust. If we develop trust among ourselves and we have a very strong dialogue, nothing is impossible. We'll still be able to have a very strong continent that will be based on the shared values.
Sure.
Yeah.
And the other one is the role of continental bodies like African Union, the IGAD, the COMESA, ECOWAS. They do have, many contributions in this continent, but how can they more contribute to lasting peace for the continent?
Well, I would like to say that those bodies are very important because they are constituted by the countries by themselves, and they were given trust that they are supposed to champion issues within Africa. Mostly, the only problem that with those bodies is that they cannot enforce. They are to engage. And when they engage parties into dialogue, they only wanted the parties to agree. And since they don't have legal enforcement, it becomes more difficult for them to actually make sure that this thing is implemented as it is. But they only give an enabling environment for them to, for the parties to continue implementing. And African Union is at the broader level. But then the regional bodies like IGAD, they are playing a very greater role because when you divide the continent into regional bodies, it makes it easy for governance.
Sure.
Because now you have like almost 10 countries in a block. These 10 countries, they actually need to build a very cordial relationship among themselves. If they build that particular relationship, whether it be economic or whether it be cultural or socio-economic, that is within that particular block, it will be more easier for African Union to intervene so quickly. When there's a conflict in one region, African Union should not go directly. They could call the body that is there to step in and start immediately responding. And I've seen it most effectively in East Africa. I think they're also trying their best to be able to form a very strong community. And in that community, there are also some shared values that they have come up with. And what is lacking, it is about the genuine implementation of those particular agreements. And I see these bodies are very useful, they're very important, only they need to be empowered, and then the same countries that are giving them the power need to respect the decisions that they're given, because they are not acting on their own. They have been given mandate by those countries. So meaning that as Africans, we should be able to always embrace the decisions, the frameworks that these particular bodies are developing for us. It helps us to grow as a continent, not as a country.
Thank you again. And the other one is the youth in the continent. There are many influencers, especially in this digital era. I know a Ghanaian influencers, I know the South African influencers, and how can the continent invest on these influencers, those who, aspires the unity of the continent?
To be very honest, youth is the biggest population of the continent. And in most conflicts, they are the biggest players in those particular conflicts. The reason being because youths are always not engaged constructively in most of the developmental programs. They are left redundant because they feel they are not employed, and there's a saying in English that an idle body is a devil's workshop. Now, when you use idle, they are not engaged. So if there's any other conflict that is there, they are the most that can easily be used to implement or to carry out those particular political agendas. Could be by others, or it could be regional or whatever. But then when you wanted to engage youth, it is good that you allow them a space, and they should have an environment that could give them a very conducive means for their development. Those who already created platforms that they are very good influencers, they should be actually supported and should be encouraged, and they should be given attention. The more they're given, the more they inspire others. And the more others follow them, the more they begin developing a sense of self-confidence and a sense of belonging in that particular area. So I just feel that whatever we do, we should not neglect the youth if you really want a peaceful Africa, because when we engage our youth, they will be more developmental, and they will also produce a lot of results in the continent. We will be able to close the doors of taking our youth to dangerous journeys, like going to Europe disparately because they are looking for a better place for living, or maybe to get jobs that could even improve their living conditions. One thing that I would like to say is that African continent need to really create jobs and be able to develop the youth, capacitate the youth, and make proper use of them, because this is the foundation of the continent. If you neglect it, definitely we will always have problems. And if you always read news, you don't miss seeing our youth disparately, like either at the sea or they're in the desert, they are trying to escape poverty. Now, poverty has become one of the biggest conflict among the youth. So I think when we are looking at conflicts, let's try to tackle how to deal with poverty itself. And this can only be done if there are some developmental programs that are there that can give youth access to credit, and that could be able to build for them livelihood that could easily later on employ others, and at the same time improve the conditions of living. You know, when you improve the condition of living of one youth, you are not only improving his own condition, you are improving the condition of the continent. And that sends a very clear kind of message to other continents that I think Africa has started to care about their youth. Always we see in the headlines, most of the disparate journeys are either by the African youth or other continents that are also facing the same economic hardships. So we need to focus more on these particular social, digital influencers, and let's try to support them so that they can be able to empower other young youth to also do the same kind of platforms. And when we have that, definitely we will be a very stronger Africa that we want to see.
As we are concluding, Mr. Isaiah, collaboration and integration is very important, especially economic integration, so that when we, have something in common, maybe we can reduce conflicts. So how can African countries collaboratively have their own, shared economic, shared values, and shared resources?
Collaboration and integration are very key in a continent like Africa. I would like to say that when we are collaborating, we need to collaborate genuinely. One more thing is that there are those fiction, the fake collaborations that are put in place, they awfully crack. And when they crack, you can be able to see, whether this is a real collaboration or it was a coercing or it was someone trying just to play his own politics for personal interest. And, not African countries are the same in terms of economic power and the political power and even social. We need to take into consideration also those that are already well established. They should be able to give a helping hand to those countries that are still struggling so that they can be able to uplift it to the level of others. That is a good collaboration. And then we also need to look at that when the developmental programs, if you know you're almost 90% developed, you should also look at that country that have at least developed up to 30%. How can we be able to bring them up to 90% or maybe 80%? It is something that should be a concern of every person in the continent. It should not be just those who are crying for help are the ones seeing themselves how they can be able to be lifted out from where they are. So that could help us to have a very stronger unity, and it can be a stronger continent. Integration is also very important, but of course when you are trying to do economic integrations, you also need to look at the levels of economics in those particular nations. As I said, we are not of the same kind of capacity. Every country has its own advantage and its disadvantages. So we should not also use the disadvantage of one country of our advantage to continue on depressing them and not allow them to grow. We need to really focus on bringing one another up. And I think, to me, we should take the principle of let's be another brother's keeper. That means that if I know that country A is better and we are collaborating with country A should be genuinely empowering country B, which is very weak in terms of economic and in terms of resource management. Resources are the cause of the conflict, by the way, in most cases. The continent is rich in terms of resources, but then those resources are actually the one that cause a lot of conflicts in the meantime. Simply because if you have not developed a proper strategy how to, extract or utilize the resources, that is where you end up getting players from outside and influence those resources. Instead of benefiting the continent, somebody will begin saying, why don't you just do it? It is between you and me. And instead of doing that, you divert the attention and try to disorganize the unity that has been there so that nobody follows how those resources have been conserved or have been utilized. So this is where I feel we really need to be very genuine and honest when it comes to resources management. In resource management, when we have a very genuine approach to it, it gives us advantage in the sense that if I have, for example, maybe those countries that have got minerals, those other countries that have got petroleum, others are having a different kind of resources, they need to collaborate in terms of getting even the best technology that they could be able to utilize, and this technology should be able to benefit the continent in a different way. And that, if we manage those resources very well, through the integration and the collaboration, we should be able to see a very different economic bloc in Africa. And that could also influence partnership with the other blocs in the world. And at the end of the day, Africa will still be able to develop its economy, and they can also be able to have that particular integrated approach in economic prosperity.
Finally, if you have any message, you are welcome.
My message is that Africa is a continent that is blessed with a lot of resources, and we just want to embrace unity, and we will be able to enjoy the Africa that currently others are running away, but they will be able to come back. You see, if most of them, they go, but after they develop themselves, they got what they want, they come back. That means Africa is the home. And even if you go to other continents, it will be like you're going for hunting, and then you bring the resources back home. So I'm so happy that the Oromia Broadcasting Network is trying to engage individuals in their own capacity to know their perception and opinions in the continental affairs. So I'm really so happy, and thank you so very much.
Mr. Longa Seme Isaiah, a PhD student at the University of South Africa, thank you very much for your insights and for your time as well.
The pleasure is all mine. Thank you.
Thank you. And dear viewers, that's all about our discussion for this edition, and I'm sure you have got very important lesson from this discussion. Until next edition, goodbye.